Interview is with saxophonist Jim Wilpula. Based out of Detroit, Michigan, Jim is the band leader and arranger for Main Street Soul and the Metro Detroit Jazz Orchestra. Here is my interview with Jim.
Come on, people.
Who do you think you are? Bless your soul. If anything you're in control, that make me crazy. That make me crazy. That make me crazy.
Hi, Jim. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Paula?
Good, good.
Excellent.
So I wanted to talk to you today about, your experience, of course, at YSU with my dad and how that's impacted your career and what you do now, and just experiences that you had and things that you've carried with you. So let's start off with how you became interested in jazz, how you started playing sax, clarinet. How did you end up at YSU? How did you meet my father?
Okay, well, I'm one of those kids who didn't want anything to do with band. My parents made me, just like, you have to at least try it. So they were like, anything but drums. So this was in the 5th grade. So my best friend in elementary school, he was like, I want to play the saxophone. So like, okay, that's what I ended up with. You know, he didn't last even 1 year in band, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this is pretty cool. Because it was weird because I didn't want to do band or anything like that because I didn't like music class and singing and all that stuff. But I once I started playing the saxophone, I kind of enjoyed that. So, and then I started getting interested in jazz with my first private teacher, who was actually a piano player. Her name was Nyla Ballant, and I started taking lessons with her. I think it was the summer after 5th grade. But she was a piano player, so she taught me a lot of scales and like music theory. And then as soon as I could, she was teaching me. First she taught me how to transpose, so she was giving me piano music to transpose like jazz tunes, like old Dixieland tunes. And so I started. That was my first exposure to it. And then of course going through school band, as soon as I got to middle school, playing in a jazz ensemble, that was something cool. Which was an after school kind of thing. But so I got involved that way. So obviously my middle school band director, who I studied privately with, because he was a saxophone player as well, I started getting involved in jazz that way. And of course going into high school with my high school band directors, Hector Martinez and then Chuck Craig, got really interested in big band jazz. And then was like, hey, I want to go to music school. And YSU was not my first choice.
Oh,
I didn't know
really?
it, no, and I didn't know anything about it. And I actually wanted to go because a friend of mine, who's actually best man at my wedding, Aaron Orquist, he went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. So that's where I auditioned at. And that year they took 2 freshmen, and I was 3. And I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And it was, I was still in my senior year. And then my band director, Chuck Craig, was like, have you thought about Youngstown? And I said, because I kind of didn't want to go to school so close to home. I was like, I don't know anything about the program at Youngstown. So I think, if I remember correctly, we did the Warren Jazz Festival at Warren Harding High School. I think Rich Rollo was the director then,
Okay.
and I think it was there, and YSU was there. That was the band with Mike Camiff and Eric Dragney. That's the Things to Come band, and
Oh,
so Jim Ridgely on drums, and so I believe that's what the first time I saw the band. Of course, Jaws on the floor. I'm like, and my band director was like, yeah, I think he was like, you should talk to Tony. And I'm like, I think I probably should. so that's how I got interested in Youngstown, because I had no idea, because I was looking other places, you know.
right.
Um, and then I talked to Tony, and before you know it, I'm auditioning for the School of Music and sending my application in, and then I got accepted, and here we are.
Wow.
So, um,
So it almost
and
wasn't.
it almost wasn't, and it almost wasn't again, because after my first year at YSU, Cincinnati called me and said, "Hey, one of the guys dropped out that's in your class. If so, they opened the invitation back up to me to go to
Oh,
Cincinnati." And I went, I told them, I'm already getting established myself at Youngstown. I'm kind of happy here, I think I'm going to stay here. And that's what I did. I stayed. So
oh. Well, good.
I don't think I ever told anybody that, but
And what years were you in the jazz ensemble?
I was there from, I was on the extended stay plan, 91 through 97.
Okay.
Because I was doing a lot of things that I didn't need to for my performance degree, which then helped me when I went back and got certified to teach, which I did that for a little while. But taking clarinet lessons, and which I started taking clarinet lessons at the end of my freshman year. I think it was spring quarter, and because you have to double to play if you want to play in first band, playing clarinet and flute, and I took flute lessons, and then of course to better yourself on those instruments, you're playing in concert band, and to play these secondary instruments to learn how to play them better, besides taking lessons, so you're playing them more. And so yeah, I did some things. I did take a couple of music ed classes during my performance degree, which again, like I said, helped me out. So when I went back to get certified, it was a little quicker than it could have been. So, but yeah, I was there 91 through 97.
Wow. And I didn't realize that you played the flute too.
Not very well, but I had to learn to play a little bit. And I remember, and actually it's the concert from 92 that I said I don't have the whole concert on VHS, but we had to play A Child is Born, Thad Jones, and all the saxophones play flute on that. And of course I'm playing second tenor, so I have all the low flute parts, which is really hard.
Oh,
So I'm just learning how to play flute. It's all that low stuff. So, but no, yeah, you had to learn how to do that too. But I actually took enough clarinet lessons to get a minor in
oh,
clarinet, which
wow.
I didn't know until I graduated. They're like, you studied clarinet long enough. I'm like, okay, cool. I think I took 4 or 5 years worth of lessons.
And do you still play now? I mean, do you still play clarinet now?
I play a little bit of clarinet still in my big band,
Okay.
because I have a singer that does a lot of Frank Sinatra stuff, and there's a lot of doubling flute and clarinet stuff in some of those arrangements. So yeah, I still play the clarinet a little bit. I still have my magic black stick of death.
Oh, that's so
So,
cool.
yeah. So, and the funny thing, like I said, I started playing clarinet spring quarter my freshman year, winter quarter my sophomore year when concert band started. I was principal clarinet in the concert band, because at the time there wasn't a whole lot of clarinet majors, and it was like, you're next one up, concert band. They were trying to break me into shape to play in wind ensemble too. And I just remember seeing the auditions, and they're like, "Jude, you got first chair clarinet." I'm like, "How? I've been playing for 9 months. How's this
Oh,
possible?"
that's really
So,
good.
well, it sounds impressive, but I really had to work, you know.
Oh, I
But
bet.
yeah, so yeah, that was right. And then it was think it was my sophomore year that we had Eddie Daniels in to help still building up the clarinet studio. And then they did a lot more recruiting. So then we had a lot of clarinet players. So then I got to go play bass clarinet in wind ensemble, which that was a lot of
Ah,
fun. So, which then when I moved to baritone saxophone, that was perfect double because that's usually the clarinet that a baritone player doubles on in big band. So I did play a lot of bass clarinet in the first band with your dad too as a double, but useless information for 100, Alex.
no, that's really interesting. I didn't realize you played all those instruments. Wow. I mean, that's really impressive.
Like I said, it sounds good on paper.
So
No.
I remember that you were part of the Jazz Society. You were the
Mm.
president, correct?
Yeah, I believe I was president. I was president after Phil Palumbi. So I was president, I believe it was 93, 94, and 94 and 95. Those 2 school years. I did it for 2 years. And we helped your dad, figure out what guest artists we wanted to bring in. Um, and of course, being a student organization, as the president, I was the one that had to go in front of student government pleading for money to help, to pay for these guest artists. And and we always got like the most amount of money on from student organizations on campus because of all the people that we brought in to the concerts. So you're talking, I mean, I don't know how many people were there. It was always 500, 600 people. Sometimes they're standing by the vending machines. They can't even see the band. They're in the back in the study area in the back of Kilcawley. Again, people can't see, but they can hear, and they're there.
Right.
And it was always every concert packed, which
Every
was always
concert.
cool.
Oh
So
yeah.
and yeah, and then you get to see a lot. This other concert I have from '92, a different angle, which I think I posted one picture on or one video on Facebook. But you see different perspectives in some of these videos I have. How many people were there? And every concert was like that. Whether we had a guest artist or not. When we had a guest artist, it was even more. But even the concerts that we didn't have guest artists. Um, but anyways, going back to the Jazz Society, not only did we, you know, I had to fill out contracts. Of course, your dad would help with that because we had to turn them in so that these guest artists would be paid. So pick them up at the airport, drop them off. Sometimes you're picking them up from the hotel, bringing them to back to Bliss Hall for rehearsal, dress rehearsal, or for the concerts. And then usually our guest artists would do a clinic, sometimes that afternoon before the concert. So then you're making sure they're there, and then bringing them to dinner, all that stuff. You're like their chauffeur.
Right.
So I particularly remember actually my freshman year. I was in Jazz Society, but obviously wasn't an officer. But I remember Alan Mascari and I took Bob Mitzer back to the Pittsburgh airport. And then I particularly remember when Duffy Jackson came, the drummer, drummer for the Basie band for a long time. I remember driving him around campus, bringing him to where he needed to be and stuff, and having to pick him up. But yeah, that was all part of it, and that was really cool. Getting to see that side of it, like what's involved in bringing a guest artist in, and to make sure that we had quality guest artists that not only were good for the students but also good for the university because of all the people again that came to these jazz concerts. And that's why we got so much funding because of the publicity that we brought to the university.
Right.
So that's important, and it was good again for us, for our audience, and it was just a win-win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to promote the school and recruit um, for upcoming years, knowing that these artists came to the school and there would be more. But yeah, I remember I attended a lot of those, probably all of your concerts I attended, and Yeah, they were incredible. I mean, if you had to use the restroom, forget it. There was
Yes.
no way to get through the crowd. There was no way
No,
to get through
no,
the crowd. So,
no. But actually, and I remember, I think it was my sophomore year, we had Lutz in.
yeah, I
We
remember
had
that.
Lutz. I have the audio of that. I don't have a video, but I have audio of that. But I remember the following year, a few of us, like Al Mascari, I think Bob Matchett, myself, and there's probably a couple other guys. Lou was playing a gig in Pittsburgh. We went to go see him, and he recognized us.
Oh,
Hey, YSU, Youngstown, Tony.
that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I just remembered that.
When we talked
So,
before, you told me about when Mel Lewis and Thad Jones were in town. I mean, this was back in
yeah,
the
this is way before
70s.
my time, and I got hit to this from when one time Alan Mascari and I went to your dad's, and he had these tapes on reel to reel, and he was hooking us up with some recordings and just, which I thought was really cool. So he had on reel to reel, I think it was 1976, and I think it might have been November 76 if I remember. Because Harold Danko was playing in the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band, and they were in Cleveland and had a night off, and they had called your dad and said, hey, they want to come down and work with the kids or like hook something up to play. And it was like, well, tomorrow night's our jazz concert. So you had Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, Rufus Reed, Harold Danko, Gregory Herbert, and Pepper Adams.
Oh my gosh.
So they came down and played a set before the band, and this is some of the recordings that your dad had a reel to reel that he gave to me and Alan. And in a sense, I've had these digitized, and I think I shared these with you.
You did. They're amazing.
So they do Straight No Chaser, and it's like a 15-minute version of Straight No Chaser because they all take, and it's burning fast. And then Pepper Adams plays Sophisticated Lady, and then Thad plays Mood Indigo, and then they do Second Race, and I think most of the guys are sitting in the jazz ensemble's playing, so they're sitting in with the jazz ensemble, and those are the only recordings I have from that. I don't know if your dad has any more in his reel to reels somewhere, but those are the recordings I have, and I've listened to those quite a bit, and especially since I really dig Pepper Adams, and being that baritone's my main saxophone, and to hear those kind of bootleg recordings and to hear the story right from the horse's mouth where they came from,
Oh
is
yeah.
super cool. Way super cool.
Absolutely. I wish we
So,
could have been there.
oh yeah, well I was 3.
Yeah.
So but which would make me a lot older than I am now. So in that regard, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Right. True. True.
Because I can listen to it now.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's just incredible to have mega stars like that at the school,
Yeah.
playing with the students, and it's hard to comprehend that they were there, that they were playing, and um, you
And
know.
a lot of them knew your dad.
So, yeah. Well, speaking of my
So
dad, what were some of your favorite stories about him, or things that he told you, or things that have stuck with you through the years?
it's hard to go back and remember anything really specific except for one incident comes to mind. And I remember one rehearsal I was messing up or something, and he was giving me a hard time. And so, then you're like, oh, you feeling bad? I'm letting him down. It's like, had a bad day playing or whatever. And then I remember the next day, he sees me in the hallway. And he's like, hey, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I can't remember if I had piano class or something. He's like, no, come on, we're going to lunch. We go down to the MVR, and we start to talk, and he's like, why? I'm the way I am, and I rag on you guys when things aren't right. And he says, because it's about the music, and it's about the people that played the music before you, and you don't want to disrespect the music or the people that lived, breathed, and died, playing this music, because that's how passionate he was about it. Because he's like, this isn't about me. and just I want to be crack the whip. It's about the music and to make sure that everyone plays at the absolute best that they can. You know, because sometimes it took that to get it out of you. You know, but then I also have memories of him just laughing, hanging out with us, being one of the guys too. Like I remember there was a recording session we did in Cleveland that we ended up not releasing, but we were waiting for some technical stuff, and Al Mascari being Al, he's making everybody laugh, doing bits. I just remember your dad just laughing, that big laugh, and you know, and that's how he was, you know. So it wasn't, all crack the whip, tyrant. No, I mean, he was a real person too,
Right.
and we had a lot of laughs. And going back to me playing clarinet and concert band, one time he was laughing at me because I had this nervous habit to do it with my knees, my legs when I'm playing, and he was watching, because jazz ensemble rehearsed right after concert band. He was like, "What are you doing after rehearsal?" He's like laughing at me. He's like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just nervous energy." It's like my legs are just going, and I'm just tooting on my clarinet. But yeah, those are all, those are memories. Obviously, you never forget.
Right, right. And wasn't there something he told you about about making commitments? If you make a commitment.
Oh yeah, I mean, this was one of the first lessons I remember him saying. It was like my freshman year, and he was just I think it was in a jazz ensemble rehearsal. He was just kind of talking to us because this I was in second band my freshman year, and he said, if you take a $50 gig and then you get called for a higher paying job, I mean you've already committed yourself. You're not bailing. You have to play that $50 gig, you know, because you're letting a lot of people down because now they're making arrangements around you being there, whatever it is, whether it be music selection or, okay, we can play this because this player's here, or, whatever the case may be. And it pretty much was like, follow through with your commitment,
Right.
and that's how he was. And that's how I am too, with both the bands that I have. And sometimes that really rubs me the wrong way when guys bail for reasons that are I feel are questionable because of all that time at YSU with your dad and just some of those things like that he would tell us. He's like, you need to follow through with your commitment, you know.
Right.
And I still am like that. And just like when I have rehearsal when guys are late, drives me nuts because I remember seeing your dad 5 minutes to 3 before rehearsal. If everybody wasn't in there, he's out in the hallway looking like, where is so and so, but because he's to be early is to be on time. End of story. And I think I told you this too. I remember I think there was 2 times I had to take a class across campus before jazz ensemble, and I had to clear it with Tony. He was like, "Hey, just so you know, I had to take this class. This is what it is." And then I'd leave class 5 minutes early and truck it and run back to Bliss Hall. Sometimes I'd have, of a friend have the baritone in the band room for me, pretty much getting it out except for, getting my reed wet and putting it on, you're running, getting the reed wet, putting it on, getting ready, which really stunk because I didn't have time to warm up before rehearsal, so you're going in cold. But gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
So
Wasn't there a story too about a Rubank book or a
oh
quote or something?
yeah, it's like that was my sophomore year in jazz ensemble rehearsal, and I thought it was Cherry Juice that we were playing, but I don't think that's the tune. But it was a Thad Jones tune, and playing the second tenor part in the big band is, pardon my French, but I refer to that as like one of the band bitch chairs because that's where you get all the funky harmonies and all the weird things going on. So whatever tune it was, I remember it was, it had a pretty fast tempo. It was kind of upbeat. And I remember I had an eighth note on a high B, and on the end of the beat, down to low B below the staff, like bell tone on the saxophone on tenor. And it's just a lot of times that doesn't want to, it doesn't want to happen. And everybody just busted my chops and, what's the matter, Wilpula? Have you got that far in the Rubank book yet? You know, like little things like that. I'm like, come on, man. And everybody's like, oh, dang, it burns you, you know. So I'm like, oh, but, you know, even today, I probably, you know, I'd be cacking it, you know, because, you know, that's, you know, go high to a belt. I mean, you're going 2 octaves.
Right.
And,
And
you
for
know, it's tight up.
those that don't know what that is, that's like a what fundamentals book, basic.
Yeah, yeah. The Rubank is an old, you know, they have them for trumpet, clarinet, you know, tuba, saxophone. It's old uh, method of, you know, learning how to play your instrument. So that's the whole big thing. Have you got that far in the Rubank book yet?
Oh man.
So yeah, I got my chops busted for that.
Yeah. What about that story you told me that happened at Piatt Street?
No. Oh, so that was my freshman year. So that was the year after you know Dregney was gone and like Mike Camiff and Tim Leahy was finishing up. But a lot of those guys they were still around in the area and they put together I think it was the NEO Northeast Ohio Jazz Orchestra or something they called themselves. And so all these guys are playing down at Piatt Street, big band. So a bunch of us went down, like Bob Matchett, I think Brian Cook. I think it was us four that was playing bocce ball. It was Bob Matchett, Alan Mascari, I think it was Brian Cook and me. And I think no Rocco Criazzo was there too. And so during one of the set breaks, we started playing bocce ball because they had that big bocce ball court down there. And so we're playing bocce ball, and then the band starts playing again, and we're still playing, and your dad was there. They keeps on doing this while we're playing bocce ball. The band's playing. He keeps on turning around, and then you know, and I remember Tim Leahy playing the solo, and like I wasn't playing. I was just sitting there listening, going, "Holy shit, man!" And then all of a sudden, you see him talking to I think it was Teresa or Therese. That was her name.
Therese, yeah.
Therese, and she came down. And says, "Hey, you know, Tony wants you guys to stop playing bocce ball. I want you guys to pay attention to the band." So I was like, okay, so we stopped and we were watching the band, and then I believe it was either the next day or it was 2 days later we had beginning improv class with your dad, and he just came in and he just had that look on his face. So we're all sitting there, we're on our little circle around him, and he's just quiet, not saying anything. He's like, Rocco, stand up. Alan, stand up. You want to tell me what jazz has to do with bocce ball? And just starts the whole class period just going off about us not paying attention while the band was playing. You know, again, this is going back to what I said earlier. This is the respect of the musicians and the music and everything. And he just, I mean, went off. And I was sitting there the whole time going, oh my God, please don't call my name and make me stand up, please. I'm trying to hide behind the music stand. Listen, please don't call it. Oh, because it was just, I mean, the whole time just busting our chops. It was bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, never played bocce ball again at a jazz gig if I was going to see.
Oh, I bet not.
No. But you know, he was right. You know, it's like, you know, that's kind of like being at a symphony concert or something, and people are talking.
Right.
And you're like, shut up. You know, you got bocce balls, clink, clink, clink. You know, when the band, you know, the guys are playing their butts off, and again, to be young and dumb.
Oh, I know. I know.
So yeah, we had to get set straight, and your dad was one that did it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I was whenever
Funny at the time.
yeah, not funny at the time, but looking back, whenever I
Yeah.
would have a day off of school, I'd go to YSU just to go to work with him. And I remember him reaming you guys out a couple times, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh my Lord, I want to melt right
Yeah.
now." Oh,
And I tell you what, it's like it seemed like he had this red sweater that he would wear a lot, and we seemed like we always knew when that red sweater was on, something
right.
was going to let him. Because since he was there for so long, he was always, and he told me this, and maybe probably told the whole band this, but since he was there for so long, he was on all the hiring committees and this committee and that, and he hated that. He just wanted to be doing music and teaching us the whole time. So something would happen in a committee meeting or something that would piss him off, and then he just, first of all, he'd be coming down to rehearsal right at 3 o'clock, all huffing and puffing, and it's like, oh shit, and he's wearing a red sweater, the red sweater, and it's like, what's gonna happen, And you didn't be the one, you didn't want to be the one that set him off, because he was already PO'd, and then if you ticked him off because for sloppy playing or whatever, he'd start busting your chops, and then he'd start going down the line. And if you're the one that set him off, he'd come back to you.
Right.
You didn't want to be that guy that got it 2 or 3 times, But yeah, because I know he did not like all those committees and stuff, even though he knew it was part of the job, and being a part of the faculty for so long. But he would rather just be doing music, teaching his bass students, doing jazz ensemble rehearsals, and teaching improv class, if it, whatever the case was. He didn't want to be messing with that, but it's par for the course
Right.
with
Right.
his position. So, and he knew that, but still, he didn't like it. I know that. So.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yep.
Red
So
sweater
do you
day.
know anything about the beginning of the jazz program, or how that all got started?
Well, I mean, the story that I know, and obviously, you're talking to Bill Bodine, he would, because he was there, he would know. But the story that I was told was, I mean, I think Bill Bodine and some other guys were starting a student jazz group, to play at school on their own, and then your dad was taking classes, and he's on. I don't know if it's a live. I think it's a live record that he's on with Woody Herman. I think Bill Bodine and some other guys came up to him. He was coming out of class, and they're like, "Are you this Tony Leonardi?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so that's kind of how he got involved with it. Because I don't think he was. I don't know if he was doing master's classes or undergrad, but I don't know the whole story. But that's kind of what I was told. And Bill would know obviously a lot more than that than I. And but I think that's how it all kind of got started. But I think at first too, I believe he taught in Poland public schools,
Yes.
and then he was going in just to do jazz ensemble before he was full-time faculty. And that was in the 70s, I believe.
Yep.
I think he taught middle school.
He did.
And
Yeah, that's how he met my mom.
okay.
Yeah, that she taught at Poland Middle School. So, and she said the first time she saw him, he was kicking a student's instrument down the hallway in the case. And she's like, I don't want to know that guy. Then she ends up marrying him. So,
So, oh yeah.
but yeah, he was very passionate, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Very
Yes. I mean,
passionate.
and passionate, and again, it's about the music. It ain't about him, and
Right.
it's about doing your best, and I think you asked, earlier, maybe this is from a different conversation. It's like, what are some of the things that, you know, you you take from your dad, and that's doing your best at everything you do. You know, I think I told you, like, and you had some. I did some barbecue. I brought to you when
Oh
we.
yeah. It was
So,
amazing.
so
Amazing.
so when I cook and do barbecue and stuff, I try to find the best recipes I can because I don't want to be a slacker, you know. And so I just want to do at everything you do. You want to do the best that you possibly can, and that's what and that's all your dad ever asked of, from us when we were in school and playing this music is do the best that you possibly can, and he knew how to get the best out of you. And sometimes it didn't feel like it if he was coming down on you, but he had a way. That was all part of the master plan. So, but like I said, it always wasn't just all nails and hammers. I mean, so
Right. I mean, a lot of the stories that we share on Facebook or when we
Uh,
get together
yeah,
and talk and laugh, it's about how hard he was on people.
yeah,
But I mean, that's a part of it. But you know what you learned and the good fun times were just
yeah. I mean, it's like I can't, with some of these recordings, like I think Mike Campbell shared some recordings from a Duke Ellington concert that the band did in 1990. I don't know if you saw Bob Matchett's comment. Like, what I wouldn't do to go back.
yes, I did.
You know, I said that before, and that was one of the last emails that I shared with your dad because I was teaching in Huron, Ohio, and I was like, even being shortly removed from it, I was like, what I wouldn't do to go back, you know, to do it all over again. Well, maybe just playing in the jazz ensemble part of it. I don't want to do homework, like that
Right.
homework. Practicing for the concert, that's one thing, but I don't want to be going to music history class and theory.
Right.
Brutal. But
So what are some of the things that you think um some of the techniques that he used with what he did that were so effective that made the program so good. I mean, it got national recognition. What was it that he did? Because I observed as an outsider, but I wasn't a student. So how would you explain that to somebody? What qualities did he have as a professor that
well,
made the band so great?
I think it just comes down to, you can say one word. It's passion. Again, it's his passion for the music and him knowing how to get it out of you and almost like challenging you to do better. You know, and 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 most of us got it, and there's a few people that didn't get it, and then they stopped playing in the jazz ensemble and stuff. But most of us got it, and we knew it was par for the course. Again, the hammer and nails, but it always wasn't that. But that's just those are the memories that you think of because you busted my chops that day or blah blah blah. But it wasn't always that. I mean, I don't want people to think that didn't know him that he was just some tyrant. But that's not who your dad was. But what he was passionate about what he was doing, and it was teaching this great American music to his students and putting on great concerts. Things that we can look at now, listen to recordings or some of these old VHS videos that I have, and hopefully some more surface that you can look back and hear these and see these concerts and be, man, we sounded really good. This wasn't like just a memory. Oh, we were so good, and then listen to the recordings and like, no, you weren't. No, I mean the bands were good. I mean you could tell. I mean, and I was involved in some of the bands too. That were there some transitional years that maybe the bands weren't as strong, but they weren't bad. You know, um, and that's another thing. Your dad would pick music too. That if it was maybe a transitional year where the bands weren't the band wasn't as strong, he would pick music to make it sound like it was. Nobody ever walked away from a jazz ensemble concert disappointed,
No, no.
ever. You know, ever. I can't ever remember one time. I think we would walk away sometimes. I know I would sometimes disappointed because I'm thinking, oh, I could have played that solo better, or I messed up the saxophone solo on this, and you know, you get hard on yourself, you know, you have to realize you're human. You're gonna make everyone made a mistake here and there and everywhere, but you minimize those. So the audience, and maybe sometimes your dad just being up front, he may not have noticed, but he probably did. But but the audience definitely, somebody made a little flub here and there. They didn't notice, but they always walked away smiling and coming back to the next concert.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think to sum up, I mean, I think just one word. It's just passion. That's what he was, about this music, and again, teaching it, sharing the legacy of the music.
Right.
So
So, and then, I remember one last story I wanted to talk to you about was when he was on the plane with John Coltrane. You were telling me that.
Oh, that's the story he told us. That was when the Woody Herman band went to Europe with Coltrane's classic quartet, and he told us that. And I think I've even read this in other places too. But he had this little cut off broomstick with bottle caps on it. So like even on the plane, you know, he had his little makeshift thing. So he's like working out patterns without playing. And then I remember him telling us, so like when the Woody Herman band was playing, in between tunes for the couple seconds that it was completely silent, they could hear Coltrane in the green room playing his horn
Oh,
constantly. So, and then I think the one story that you forgot to ask me to tell was when the Woody Herman band was at Disneyland. And then
oh,
he told
right.
us he told us about that story when he said the Woody Herman band was playing at Disneyland when he was obviously with Woody, and Frank Rossellino had a party for the band at his house, and he was picking everybody. I think if I remember right, Tony said he had a station wagon or something, so he's picking up all these guys, several trips to bring them to his house, and he had a big pool party and barbecue for the guys in the band, and Frank Rossellino, being the silly guy that he was, he's jumping in his pool off his diving board, playing an old crappy trombone, just playing licks, going in the pool, and so that's one of those stories. Your dad would tell stories like that, and of course he was there, and then that's when you'd see that big laugh, ha 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 ha, telling stories, and Frank's just jumping in the pool, and but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could remember every story that he told us because he had a lot of stories.
Oh, he did. He
So,
did.
but those are some of the stories that come to, those two stories come to, my mind that I remember. And it's like I wish I had one of those digital recorders back then that
Oh,
always played. But yeah, those always, it was like, you know, oh, story time with Tony. It could have been a video blog, like on YouTube. Story time with Tony.
right,
It's time to pop the popcorn.
right.
So
So what are you up to now? I mean, I know with COVID, a lot's changed for everybody, especially
yeah.
in music. But even up until this all happened, what have you been working on in your career?
Well, currently now I'm just a full-time musician who's not playing because of COVID. Thanks, COVID.
Ugh.
But no, I have an 11-piece event band, and we do weddings and corporate events, and we also still do a couple club dates um, when there's no COVID cooties around. But that band, is geared towards playing Motown to the top 40 Bruno Mars kind of stuff, full horn section and all that, all that fun stuff. I've written a vast majority of the arrangements for the band, and that's my bread and butter. And then I also have a 17-piece jazz orchestra I do on the side. And before COVID, we were just playing once a month. That's what that band does, because I still needed that big band, that jazz, had to have my hand in that. And apparently I like punishment. So 10, 11-piece band isn't big enough for you? Let's go 17.
Right, right.
So, but I ended up acquiring all these big band charts, excuse me, and I was like, well, might as well use them. So, and that's Main Street Soul. That's my event band, Main Street Soul. And
Very
then,
nice.
my big band is called the Metro Detroit Jazz Orchestra, and we do a lot of Frank Sinatra in that band because I have a singer. He does a really good job. We do a lot of the Frank Sinatra stuff, and so and that's why people come out and see us when we do our monthly gigs and whatnot, is because they want to hear, because all that stuff that Frank did is so timeless,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know. So and we have really good transcriptions and arrangements, and a couple of them that I've had to fix that some other people lifted off the record, and I'm like, I don't think that's quite right. But there's been two or three of those. But some of them, you're published and they sound good the way they are. or even some of the a lot of the lifted ones that other people did. I don't know who did them because they're all digitized and around the interwebs. But
Mm.
they're all written by hand. But I'm like, I don't know who, but it sounds good. So, but anyways, I acquired a lot of these charts, and it's like, hey, might as well put a big band together. And but yeah, all that has come to a screeching halt, right now. And I mean, Main Street Soul has only played 3 gigs since March, and they were all within a month period, and they were weddings and that were done safely. And but we're not doing any clubs, and now we don't have anything till April.
Ugh.
And it's October 22nd.
Yes.
So because all of our dates were rescheduled, a few of them even canceled because they still wanted to get married, but they eloped. But a vast majority of them were rescheduled into next year. So hopefully this gets under control with vaccine and all that fun stuff soon, so we can all go back to our normal everyday lives and do it safely,
Right.
gluten
Right.
free.
Yes. I know. I know. So, yeah. So to segue into the concert in 2022. So you're a part of this. You're a big part of getting this off and running. You're part of the board, and
Yep.
you know what would it mean for you to be able to reunite with your bandmates and in other classes, to meet the people from classes before you, after you, um, and then just to pay tribute to my dad.
It would mean a lot. I mean, because there's so many. Sometimes you don't remember specific memories, but it's just that feeling. And a lot of these people I know that want to play, but just to go back, because there's even friends of mine, that play in my big band now, and they wonder why I'm the way I am, and then I play them old recordings from when I was at Youngstown. They're like, "Holy shit, you guys are students!" And I'm like, "Yes, that's what I'm talking about." No excuses, you know.
Right.
So, but just to get back, with people all from the same cloth, and to play this music, and especially in tribute to your dad, and hopefully to raise awareness and donations for pancreatic cancer. I mean, that to be involved in something like that, I mean, I'm there. you know, I mean, so and I very well could be losing money that weekend when we do it, because that's why I tell, because I have an agent that does all of our stuff for Main Street Soul. That's how I make. And it's like, this weekend I'm not playing. The band's not available, and that's okay. So, because I'm not gonna miss it. No way.
No, I don't want you to miss it.
No, no,
We need
no,
you there.
no. So, but and I know how I envision it, and if it happens that way or any way it happens, it would be super cool. So, but of course, my vision is, let's have an old school jazz ensemble 1 and 2 concert and have 2 bands play about 7 or 8 tunes, and let's go for a ride.
Right, right. That would be amazing to be
So,
able to recreate that.
and hopefully it happens that way,
Yes.
but if it doesn't, because of whatever reasons, whatever we can do, will still be, sure, will be something very memorable. But
Yeah, I mean, when I first got this idea, I was picturing, just getting some people together to play, and then it was like all these people were interested. Then you guys wanted to be involved, and I memean, it's morphed into so much more already than I could have even fathomed. I
Well, yeah, well, I remember because Eric Dregney and I were talking about, like, wouldn't it be cool to do something? And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, Paula wants to do something. It was like, oh, so a few people were thinking about this, you know.
and we
So
didn't know.
no,
I
we
mean, I
did not
wasn't
know.
on Facebook for, up until 2 years ago. I wasn't really in touch with people the way I am now. And so through that, I've been able to talk to you guys and reconnect with everybody. And um, yeah, so it was a weird coincidence that you guys were also on that page.
Yeah, and a very happy coincidence. So I mean, 'cause I think it's going to be, it's like I hate wishing my life away, but yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, I
I want
know.
it to happen because then COVID should be under control by then, and
Let's hope.
and um yeah, it'll be something to remember for sure.
Yes, for sure.
And now with digital technology, instead of having a pixelated VHS tape copy, we can get digital.
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
so
That'll
yeah,
be
it'll be cool.
wonderful.
Hopefully, we can get some good keepsakes and maybe a DVD. Maybe
Yes. Yes.
that would be cool.
And for people that, maybe can't make it out, they could still um, watch it on the channel, or,
Mm.
someone makes a recording of it.
Or if if we are blessed and fortunate to have the funding, maybe we can get a DVD like made for real, and then sell them towards
Right.
the cause. But don't want to get ahead of ourselves yet.
No, I
But
know. I know.
you know, but we shall see what happens with that. So
Right. So cool. Well, and is there anything else, that you want to share or have on
uh,
record, or
I don't know if I, off the top of my head, if I can really remember anything that's worth any stories worth telling, other than again, it's just that your dad meant so much to so many people, me included, and there's rarely a day that goes by that I don't think about him in some way, because obviously I'm involved in music, even though it's a lot of it's not jazz anymore per se, but still it's putting together the best band that I can. Matter of fact, it took me 3 years to put my band together, because looking for the best players because of what I wanted, and that's all. I think a lot of that is your dad. You know, because I wasn't gonna settle for just any Joe Schmo. Well, he can sing. That's nice. He ain't singing in my band. you know. Um, so, but it just there's like I said, there's rarely a day that goes by that I don't think about him in some way, and think about memories, or that feeling, you know, of when you played a cool solo or a cool lick, and your dad's like, yeah, you know, or something, and just I don't know how to say it, how to describe it, you know, but I think about him a lot, just like I think about my dad a lot, and because it's like your dad was the musical father to so many people. That's really what he was, which is why he would get hard on you, because sometimes your parents, they should get hard on you, you know, if you're being a little schmuck. But and that's how your dad was with us, teaching us how to play this music. Sometimes he'd be hard on us,
and I
but
think if he
it was tough
wasn't,
love. It
yeah,
was
it was
tough
tough
love.
love. And if he wasn't, then you probably didn't have potential. I think if he saw the potential in you and he knew you could do better, that's when he would get mad, because
Yeah,
he knew it was there.
yeah, exactly. He knew it was there, and it was just a matter. It's like uh, he would do whatever he had to do, whether it be tough as nails, or taking you out to lunch, or whatever it took to get that out of you,
Mhm.
and to make you realize that you have that talent and that potential and the ability to play at that level. So
Right. I mean, when I go back and listen to these recordings, I cannot believe that these are college students that I'm listening to. I mean, it's impossible to believe it. I mean, now that, I was a kid then, so I didn't really understand how good this you guys
Yeah.
were. I mean, it was great. I loved it and I loved listening to it, but now that I'm an adult and now that I know so much more about jazz and about music and improvisation and all of that, I can look back on that and say, holy shit. I mean, the caliber of musicianship, talent, all of it. Wow.
And yeah, and it was a pleasure to be a part of it. You know, it was a pleasure to be there, and and not just with your dad, but with the whole experience at Youngstown. But he was the big, he was the big part of that. Especially with those of us that were so involved and loved the music too. So, again, what you wouldn't do to go back to
I know.
do one more quarter of rehearsals 3 days a week with your dad, and then put one more concert on. To be able to do it, to go back and maybe have more hair. Go back and have more hair. My receding hair as we get older.
Right.
But I was like watching these videos. I'm like, oh my god, look at all the hair.
I couldn't believe so when I saw you in that one concert and you went up to do your solo, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so young. But at the time, you were so much older than me. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? To see it
Yeah.
now, it's like, oh my God, you're so young.
I know. It's I see pictures of watching those videos, and I'm like, it doesn't even look like me. But in my head, sometimes that's why I still feel I look that way. And I look in the mirror and go, gray hair.
Why? I know.
What's going on? You watch a movie on my forehead, but.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I just remembered this. We used to have jam sessions in the pub in Kilcawley, and one time your dad came down, because usually it was just students. He didn't come down all the time. One time he came down, and of course he used to play saxophone before he started playing bass. And I was off to the side, and he's like, "Hey, you mind if I play your saxophone?" And I didn't know. I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're not sick or nothing, are you?" I was like, "No." He's like, so he gave my neck strap and everything, and he played a song on saxophone at the jam session.
How did he do?
I mean, I remember all like, holy shit! I thought he played bass because I didn't know at the time. It's like, wow.
Was he good? I mean, did he improvise? Do you remember? Because I never saw him play ever sax. I knew he.
That was the only time. And again, you wish you had cell phones and stuff then, but I don't remember it being bad or anything. I mean, he was playing licks,
Wow.
on whatever, and I wish I remembered what song it was, but I don't remember what song it was. It could have been Satin Doll. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember. But
He played piano too. I mean, I remember, he'd go in the basement sometimes and he'd just start playing. I remember he always played on Green Dolphin Street.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I'm always asked like, what all could he play? I don't know. I mean, I know he played drums, piano, sax, bass.
Well, yeah. Well, when you're teaching, you kind of have to learn a little bit about a lot of different instruments,
Yeah.
But I know obviously he had a history playing saxophone and then switching over to bass.
Right.
So, but most musicians can dabble a little bit on piano because you have to. I mean, like we had to take piano class, 2 years worth of piano class at Youngstown.
Oh, right.
Brutal.
Everyone did?
Everyone, every non-piano major had to take.
Wow. Wow.
That doesn't mean I can play piano well, but I know enough. I can like play some chords and this, that, and the other thing. But they made us, we had piano books and stuff that we had to, play hymns and, which is like, man, look, it's not. I have a keyboard right here. That's why I keep on,
Oh,
when
okay.
for when I'm writing my arrangements. You know, sometimes you're plucking out like, okay, I like that voicing. Then you go to the computer. You know, since that's how you do it these days. So then when you print your parts off, or you send the parts to the band, this is your part. It's all pretty and everything, and they put it on their iPad. You know, that's how we do it now.
Wow. So there's no sheet music anymore.
And not with my event band. So you don't see like books, sheet music, and just every once in a while, maybe with a sub that's not tech savvy. But I mean, it's not really that difficult. So
Wow. That's crazy.
instead of seeing a big music stand with all these big, thick books like this, you know, everybody has an iPad, and it's, you know, just on a stand. And so if you need a chart that you don't know by heart, look, you know, it's right there. You just tap the screen and it turns the page.
That's crazy. Crazy.
Technology
Wow.
is a beautiful thing.
It is.
When it works.
When it works. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
when
a
it-
pain in the ass. But
Yep. Amen to that. Yeah.
But well, thank
Okay.
you so much for your time and your insight, and for sharing stories about my dad. And,
Well, thanks for talking to me.
yeah, of course. And thanks for all you're doing to help get this thing going. I really appreciate everything you're doing so much.
Well, it's not a problem. It's definitely my pleasure, and like I said, it's something that I wanted to do, for sure, and to be involved with. So
I
it's
appreciate
definitely
it. All
definitely
right.
my pleasure.
Well, you take care. And,
You too.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you. Bye.